Outsider during the 2020 election, but after this Democratic presidential debate in Miami in 2019, she ended up being the most Googled person in 49 states.
Ladies and gentlemen, we don't have a health care system in the United States. We have a sickness care system in the United States. We just wait till somebody gets sick, and then we talk about who's going to pay for the treatment and how they're going to be treated. What we need to talk about is why so many Americans have unnecessary chronic illnesses, so many more compared to other countries. And that gets back into not just the big pharma, not just health insurance companies. It has to do with chemical policies. It has to do with environmental policies. It has to do with food policies. It has to do with drug policies.
Thank you.
It has to do with environmental
Senator
policies.
Benedict.
And after that, suddenly Marianne Williamson had created quite a buzz, a brutal one at times, if you ask her, but she has decided to do it again, building and refining her platform while pushing her progressive positions that she hopes will create a different presidential path this time around. Marianne Williamson joins us live here in our Washington studio to talk about that new path. Nice to see you again.
Always good to see you. Thank you for having me, Kara.
So you definitely created a number of Marianne moments, as we like to call them, particularly during that debate. Not long after that, you got out of the race. So what did you learn from that last run that you're going to do differently to try and sustain momentum this time around?
Well, you know, you do learn a lot by being in the belly of that beast. You learn about what's necessary in order to wage a campaign that is a ship strong enough to take those turbulent seas. And I hope that I can do that. A lot of that will have to do with money. But a lot of it has to do with my own, the emotional antibodies you get after something like that. You're just not as worried if the haters get on Twitter, wherever they are, even if I'm on the presidential White House press briefing podium. You become wiser with anything you do, and you feel like the next time out you'll be able to handle the situation more powerfully.
You know, since you mentioned it, let me ask you about that, because Karine Jean-Pierre, she took a jab at you, talking about crazy balls, crystal balls, magic 8 balls. I mean, they were treating you like a punchline at that moment. Yeah. Do you feel you need to convince voters now that you're not?
I think more voters see through the fairy dust now. I do. The American people are worried about their own health care. The American people are worried about the fact that they can't send their kids to college. The American people are worried about living on less than $15 an hour, not being able to afford a home. They're worried about the fact that they don't have guaranteed wages, living wages, or sick pay. And they want to hear it from anybody who might have an answer. And if a woman such as myself is saying we could have universal health care like they do in every other advanced democracy, we could have free child care like in every other advanced democracy, we could have family and sick pay like in every other advanced democracy, we could have tuition-free college and tech school, we could have a guaranteed living wage like in every other advanced democracy. I think the American people would like to hear whoever is saying that and are seeing through the way that the establishment wants to make sure that anybody suggesting such genuine fundamental economic reform is peripheralized and gotten off the stage.
So
I think people can see that now.
How do you pay for that, though?
How can you pay for that? Well, let's look at this right now. Our healthcare system is about 18.3% of our GDP. When you look at Germany, Canada, countries like that, it's 10, maybe 15. We're paying for it now so much. You know, it's so interesting. Nobody said, how are we going to pay to make whole those depositors at SVB? Although I think we should have. I'm just saying that we never ask that about certain things. We are paying for the lack of universal health care now with our lives. We have 68,000 people in this country who die every year, Kara, because they don't have health care. We have 18 million people in this country who can't afford to fulfill the prescriptions that their doctors give them. We're paying for it now. We have 500,000 people every year who go into medical debt. 1 in 4 Americans live with medical debt. It's the cost we're paying right now. It is not only a cost to our bodies, it's a cost to our souls. It's part of the great economic anxiety and despair that people are living with. The cost that we're paying, the societal costs and the human costs that we're paying right now, that's what we can't afford.
But when you look at your platform with the universal health care, the tuition-free colleges, state colleges, universities, paternity and maternity leave, free child care, I mean, somebody has to pay for that. It transfers to the taxpayer.
Well, no,
Would you raise taxes?
First of all, the people who have the money in this country should pay fair taxes. In 2017, there was a $2 trillion tax cut in this country. 83 cents of every dollar went to the highest earners and the richest corporations. Now, there was also a middle-class tax cut there. That should be put back in, but the rest of that tax cut should be repealed. Plus, we should have a wealth tax. When you think of all the people in this country who make so much money that fair taxation, they wouldn't even notice it as they go about their day. And then you notice the 80% of Americans who live in a life of economic struggle year after year after year. Among other things, we then wonder where the mental health crisis comes from. You have 64% of Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck, 60% of Americans for whom a $400 unexpected expenditure is too much for them to absorb. Why aren't we talking about them and the price that they're paying every single day for the unbelievable economic injustice that at this point is baked into the cake? Over the last 48 years, we have transferred $50 trillion from the bottom 90% to the top 1% of our earners. In the 1970s, we had a thriving middle class, and we don't anymore, and that's what we should be worried about.
You said that Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump ran on the economic anxiety of Americans, and that they said to America, I understand your rage. So are you running on the same economic platform as Trump, but from a Democratic perspective?
No.
From a Democratic perspective.
More like Bernie. So Trump and Bernie both said it, but only Bernie meant it. So Trump is the kind of personality, he knows how to get into you and say what you want him to say. So he acknowledged the rage of people with no plans whatsoever to do anything about it. He's the one who did the 2017 tax cut that gave it all to the rich, or the vast, vast majority of it, right? Bernie said it and meant it and wanted to effectuate plans that would actually create fundamental economic reform. And that is what I will do when and if I'm president.